Unhealed people don't listen with their ears, they listen with their triggers. Sometimes people are not reacting to what you actually said. They are reacting to what it reminded them of: a past betrayal, a rejection, a wound they never fully healed, a fear they carry into every conversation. And when someone is deeply triggered, they often stop hearing what is truly being said. Instead, they hear accusation where there was concern, judgment where there was honesty, abandonment where there was a boundary. Because unhealed pain has a way of rewriting conversations in real time. We all filter life through our experiences. None of us walk through life untouched. Our experiences shape us, the way we communicate, the way we trust, the way we interpret tone, conflict, silence, criticism, affection, and disappointment. This is part of being human. But when emotional wounds go unaddressed, they can quietly begin controlling how we interpret the people around us, especially in difficult conversations. A simple comment can suddenly feel loaded. A delayed text can feel like rejection. Constructive feedback can feel like an attack. Not because those things are objectively harmful, but because they activated something unresolved underneath the surface. Triggers are often old pain wearing new clothes. This is what makes triggers so powerful. They rarely stay in the present moment. They pull past experiences into current situations. Someone who felt constantly criticized growing up may hear correction as humiliation. Someone who experienced betrayal may struggle to trust reassurance. Someone abandoned emotionally may interpret distance as rejection, even when none was intended. The nervous system reacts before logic has time to catch up. And suddenly the conversation is no longer just about what is happening now. It becomes connected to everything the person has not healed from before. Not every reaction is about you. This is an important reminder. Sometimes people project unresolved pain onto others without realizing they are doing it. That does not make their feelings fake, but it does mean their interpretation may not be entirely accurate. And if you are someone who tends to over-explain, over-apologize, or carry responsibility for everyone else's emotions, this can become exhausting very quickly because you will keep trying to solve conversations that were never fully about you to begin with. You cannot heal wounds for someone else, especially wounds they are unwilling to acknowledge themselves. Unhealed people often hear defense instead of love. One of the saddest things about unresolved pain is how it can distort connection. People who have been hurt deeply sometimes struggle to receive love safely. They expect hidden motives, rejection, manipulation, abandonment. So even healthy communication can feel threatening to them. Boundaries may feel like punishment. Honesty may feel cruel. Accountability may feel like rejection. Not because those things are inherently harmful, but because pain teaches people to stay emotionally guarded. And when someone lives in survival mode long enough, they stop listening openly. They start listening defensively. Healing changes the way you hear people. One of the clearest signs of healing is not perfection. It is increased self-awareness. Healed people still get triggered sometimes. They still feel emotional pain. They still misunderstand things occasionally. But healing creates pause. It allows someone to ask, am I reacting to what is happening right now or to something this reminds me of? That question alone can transform relationships because it creates space between the trigger and the reaction. And in that space, communication becomes clearer, more honest, more grounded, less driven by fear. It is not your job to shrink yourself to avoid someone else's triggers. This matters deeply. Compassion is important. Sensitivity matters. Kindness matters. But constantly abandoning your own truth to manage another person's emotional reactions is not healthy communication. It is emotional survival. There is a difference between being intentionally hurtful and simply saying something another person does not yet have the tools to process safely. And if someone constantly twists your intentions, weaponizes vulnerability, or reacts to every boundary as an attack, you may find yourself walking on eggshells trying to avoid setting off another emotional landmine. That is not connection. That is fear-based communication. Healthy relationships allow room for honesty without constant punishment. Sometimes people cannot meet you where you are, not because you are asking too much, but because they are still fighting battles within themselves they have not faced honestly. Unhealed people often struggle with accountability because accountability activates shame. So instead of reflecting, they deflect. Instead of listening, they react. Instead of understanding, they defend. And while empathy matters, it is important to recognize when someone's unresolved pain is creating unhealthy dynamics in your life. Because love cannot thrive where every conversation becomes emotional warfare. Healing requires honesty with yourself. Real healing is uncomfortable sometimes. It requires people to examine not only how they were hurt, but how those wounds may now affect others. That takes courage. It is easier to blame, to project, to assume bad intentions, to stay defensive. But growth begins when someone becomes willing to pause and ask, why did this affect me so strongly? What wound did this touch? Am I responding to the present or to my past? That level of self-awareness changes relationships because healing does not improve how you speak, it improves how you listen. The goal is not to never be triggered. The goal is to become aware enough not to hand your triggers the microphone in every conversation, because we all carry wounds. But healing teaches us that our wounds are not meant to control every interaction, relationship, or disagreement we experience. You deserve relationships where communication feels safe, clear, grounded, mutual. And that begins with learning to separate present reality from past pain. Because when people heal, they stop listening only through fear. They finally begin listening through understanding. Slay reflection. S. See the pattern. Have you ever reacted strongly to something that was actually connected to an older wound? L. Look beneath the trigger. What emotions tend to surface most quickly for you during conflict or difficult conversations? A. Accept the responsibility. Where might unresolved pain be shaping the way you interpret others? Why? Yield to growth. What would change in your relationships if you paused before reacting defensively? Call to action. Join the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever realized that a strong emotional reaction was connected to something deeper than the moment itself? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's grow through it together. And if you know someone who's learning how to heal old wounds and communicate more openly, send this to them. Sometimes healing begins the moment we stop reacting automatically and start listening honestly. I'm Carrie Genzel, reading a blog from stateofslay.com. Slay on.